Okay, it's the end of the session. I'm here with three sleeping dogs. We have little Richard, Brody, and Gabby, and we can pan to Richard, and there we go. They're asleep. We made them use a muscle they don't use very much, this one. For a dog, using their brain is very draining, and it can be very stimulating. So this is the roadmap to success. I'm going to kind of try to summarize the stuff we went over in the session. One of the things, speaking of the sniffs, most people don't realize when you're walking a dog, the sniffing on the walk burns more energy than the locomotion of walking. So as a result, the Guardians here free feed. One of the suggestions I made was, at least for the older dog, Gabby, that we get a snuffle mat. A snuffle mat is a floor mat with tassels in it. We can put their food in it. She's got to use her nose to find them, move it over, and then lick up the little kibble. So it takes longer. It boosts the dog's self-esteem because they earned that food versus being given it to them. Number two, she has to sniff to find it, which is stimulating and calming and relaxing. And number three, it burns a lot of energy. So it really accomplishes a lot of things just by something we're going to do every day, feeding. Now, the dogs right now are free fed. So there's one bowl, they eat out of it all the time, whenever they want. Gabby, actually, the dog we were talking about, is a little bit heavy. But for dogs, they eat in the order of their rank, and eating is the most important activity for them. So if we leave food in the bowl all the time, they're like, okay, in the wild, they spend 90% of their time. The dog's like, okay, what do I do with the other 89% of my time? So by helping them earn their food, that really can boost their self-esteem and confidence. Now, we also started off talking about exercise. Gabby, being the older dog, doesn't need as much, but the other two dogs, especially little Richard, need more exercise. And so it's about to be winter, it's crappy, they pull on the leash, they're not, so it's not a lot of fun for the Guardians. And one of the Guardians has some issues, so where it was difficult to walk. So one of the things I like to do is I call it a doggy stairmaster. Go to the top of there's stairs right back here. Go to the top of the stairs with one dog at a time. Show little Richard you have a treat. Throw it to the bottom of the stairs. When he gets, and there's a landing and then another set of stairs. When he gets down there, when he looks up at you, drop a treat over the stairs. So it goes all the way to the bottom. When he runs down and licks it up, come up with a funny word that means to go down the stairs. The way we assign that is maybe we say Jamaica every time he licks up that treat at the bottom of the stairs. So Jamaica means run to the bottom of the stairs and get a reward. Then I call the dog back to the top of the stairs and give it another treat and call it Canada or Everest or something like that. So we can have the dog going up and down the stairs as a form of exercise. Each down up would be one. The first time you do it with an empty stomach, keep throwing those treats until little Richard's like, you're crazy, I've been down there 48 times, I'm not going down anymore. Now we know what the maximum number is. We want to exercise about 50 to 75% of the maximum number multiple times a day. Ideal about every 2 to 4 hours. Before you have guests over, exercising the dog before the guest comes over can put them in a position to succeed. Exercising your dog before you take them for a walk can help them calm down. The video above will talks about how you can help the dogs be calm throughout the leashing process. Remember to practice that multiple times a day, independent of going for a walk. If you practice it right, big deal. You put the leash, oh, we're walking? But you catch them by surprise, and now you don't have that crazy energy. Remember, excited is not the same thing as happy when it comes to dogs. So when your dogs are excited, stop petting them. Just ignore them. Don't even look at them. Just walk past them. As soon as they calm down, reach. As soon as they get excited again, pull your arm back and just continue doing your thing. Not with that shimmy that I just did. But just what you're saying is when you're calm, you're very attractive. I want to pet you. When you're excited, I have no interest in you. Now, Brody is the black and white rat terrier. And I noticed right away when I came in, I reached to pet him and he would duck and cower. And a lot of us, we reach down, we pat the dog on top of the head because it's the closest thing to us. Well, that creates a nose down orientation. The body mechanic of a proud dog is to have his nose parallel to the floor, tilted upward. You've probably seen the dog running around with your shoe or underwear or something like that. Look how awesome I am. Well, whenever possible, I like to pet the dog under the chin to facilitate that. But what I did for him is I reached and he ducked down, I pulled my arm back. And he was like waiting, didn't happen, he looked back up, then I started again. I had to do it 6 times. 7th time, he kept his nose up, and I reached down and I petting him, and he kept his nose in the air. So one of the things I'd like the family to do is probably the easiest thing you'll do is for everyone in the family, if you reach down to pet him and Brody cowers, stop and just wait. But don't exasperate. No, there's no punishment because it's an insecurity, and that if we do anything negative, even if we highlight it, it'll make it worse. All I want to do is just be like, no, man, I want you to be proud and confident. So, so try to get in the habit of doing that. Come up with maybe a word. We were talking about like stoked or, whatever the word is you want to use a surfer word because it's a surfer name. But whatever the word is means you should stop petting him. He's ducking his head. And everybody in the house, you can pet your dog anywhere you want. Just try to avoid reaching over the head. And if all things are equal, pet it on the chin because that facilitates that nose up and that's body confident body mechanic. Other things you can do, feeding her on, I want to say Gilda, but it's
Gabby.
It was a G, out of the snuffle mat. And what I would do is I'd feed them in a structured feeding. I have videos for this if you want them, but what I would do is I would put the food down in 3 separate bowls. The dogs have to stay maybe outside of the tile for your kitchen. And then I would either feed Brody or Gabby first. Now, when they go over, whenever that dog is eating, the other 2 dogs have to stay outside the boundary. Now, Brody likes to take food and walk away and drop it and eat it. I usually would dump the food when he does that, but somebody in the house likes that. So you can let him continue if you want. It'll just take the feeding process will be longer. If you want to stop that, as soon as he walks away, more than 5 feet away from the bowl, pick up the bowl, dump it empty. But importantly, put the bowl back down. Well, it's supposed to put the whole bowl up. That's looking at us taking away our food. Emptying it, every time they walk by, it's empty. It's empty. Oh, there's food there. It's a special rare occurrence. Eating is really important for dogs, so it's just an easy way to help create a healthy leader-follower dynamic. We also talked about scent. Well, we didn't talk. Yeah, we talked about scent games, which would be another thing you can do. Just go to Google, search for scent, SCENT, games, and find some stuff. It's low impact. She doesn't have to do a lot, but she's using her nose, and that can be very stimulating and confidence building for her. We also dog door.
Dogs barking out back.
Dogs barking outside and ran out to the dog door. All right. So basically, we also talked about enforcing rules for dogs. They go through life probing, waiting for somebody to say that is too far. They are expecting you to say stop or enough. If we don't have any rules, we're not consistent. Dogs are the repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward a dog for them to have the ability to make the connection, but it has to be repeated consistently a certain number of times in a row. Some dogs it might be 5, and other dogs might be 500. That's exaggerating. But every time that they're able to do the other thing, that like resets you. So consistency is super, super important. Also remember, breaking a rule to reward a dog is confusing, frustrating, and is absolutely related to the barking and a lot of the other unwanted behaviors. So if you want to reward the dog, pet the dog. Play the ball, play with the toy or whatever it is. Don't invite it into an area that's not allowed to go because it's just confusing. All right, so other rules we talked about, you have to sit at the door. Go to the door, say sit 1 time. The dog has 3 seconds to sit. If it doesn't sit, within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down nearby, wait 1 minute, then go back and tell the dog, command, and don't ask. Tell the dog to sit. If it doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes. Next time, I walk away for 4 minutes. But each time, I'm seated when I walk away, and I stay in the immediate area. As soon as the dog sits when I tell it to sit, boy, that door flies open fast. So after a while, the dog will go sit as this way of saying, I'd like to go out the door, please. Also, other rules, not be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. Do the dry runs like I showed you, and if you have questions or problems with that, let me know. I have videos on how to establish an invisible boundary or keep the dogs out of the kitchen. You can watch. Everybody in the family can watch. Same thing when you're eating at the dinner table. I'd say the dogs are not allowed to be on the carpet around the table while you're eating. The rest of the time they can come and go, but not while we're eating. Remember to create scenarios where you can practice that. So before you actually cook, go into the kitchen and establish that boundary, and then do your meal prep cooking. Microwave some roast beef or bacon or something like that, and then pull your pots and pans around and everything out of the fridge. Every time the dog crosses the threshold, you rush towards them. Then remember when you walk away, left foot, right foot, pause while you're facing the dog. So you're walking backwards. Pause between each step. Eventually, you'll be able to walk all the way and don't have to do it using those escalating consequences. Yawn. That's passive training. We haven't got to that point yet. Okay, so let me see. Those are some examples of rules, but there's other rules that you might want to make, like you have to sit before I put the leash on. You have to sit calmly before I even start the process of putting your food in your meal or your food in your bowl. So look for ways that you can help them practice delaying gratification and doing something to earn your affection. That's huge, and there's a million ways that you can do it. We also talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is really what it sounds like. Is we're going to pet the dog for a reason. So a lot of us, we just pet the dog when the dog nudges us, and these dogs nudge while the dog's telling us what to do, and we do it. So the dog's like, we're not peers anymore. I'm up here, the human's down there, they're my subordinate, because when I give them an order, they do it. So next time the dog nudges you, give it a counter order, tell it to sit. If it's already sitting, ask him to sit over here or ask it to lay down. I would not practice the shake at all with any of the dogs because they all jump up, and that can be a way of claiming, come. Very good, buddy. And remember, say just the word come. If you want to say very good, buddy, or anything, just say it after. The first word that you say is what they're going to hear the most. So for petting with a purpose, what will happen is the dog realizes, I can't tell the humans what to do, because if I can tell them what to do now, they don't do anything other than give me a counter order. But if I do it, they hook me up. What will happen is the dog will start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention, because they realize sitting is the activity that gets my human's attention. And when it does, make sure you reach over and pet it on its chin and say sit, and then you pet it as much or as little as you want. But if you don't, it'll go back to nudging, jumping up on your lap, or whatever it is. I use the watchword paycheck if someone's petting without a purpose. Even if I did it right, if somebody comes in and says paycheck, I stop petting, tell the dog to sit. When it sits, pet it on its chin and say sit. Say, actually, I asked the dog to sit and you missed it. If I tell the dog to sit and it doesn't sit, within 3 seconds, I lean back. Playing hard to get works great for dogs, as well, or I usually stepped on my line. It works great for dating, and it also works great for dogs. So show the dog that if you don't do what I want, I'm not going to punish or get mad, but I got 23 other things to do. You're missing out. After a while, your dog will start thirsting for that attention because it's not getting it anymore. And then it's more motivated to want to listen, to sit, and so on. All right, we also went over what I call passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior you want without any influence and just simply marking it and labeling it. Well, I guess that's the same thing. Marking it with good timing. So a good example is eating food. So when Brody goes over and eats his first bite of food, we'll say chimichanga because that is a surfer food. And so for 4 months, every time he takes his first bite of food, he hears the word chimichanga while food in his mouth. So chimichanga means I eat. The other two dogs hear chimichanga, there's no food in their mouth. It doesn't mean the same thing to them. So name all your individual toys. One of the dogs, little Richard, does kind of a grumble. So when he does the grumble, pet him and say grumble. Or talk, or whatever. Maybe talking is probably more appropriate. I do it with my dog, so I can say grumble, and I have a conversation with him. It's funny. So anything your dog does, I taught one of my dogs to stretch this way. Every time we stretch, I pet him under his chin and say stretch. And I can say stretch. He sticks his butt in the air, waggles his tail, goes, oh, and he'll do it 10 times in a row. So I say celebrate, and the guardian right there, pet under the chin and say come. So celebrate means, because that's what we're doing is we're celebrating the things the dog does that we like. Remember, any attention to a dog is validated. Even if you're yelling, which you shouldn't do, or you're chastising them or correcting them, that's validating. So what we want to do instead is we want to reward them for the things we want, so they will start knowing what it is they can do to make us happy. They'll start emulating those things. So if I say celebrate, that means that you're missing an opportunity. Remember, you only have 3 seconds. Dog walked up to me, I missed it. The guardian here says celebrate. I only have 1 second to start petting the dog. If I say, what am I petting for? I blew it. So if you say celebrate, I look at the dog, if you stand there, I pet it and say come. If it's sitting, I pet it and say sit. You guys don't have a word for lay down, but I always pet your dogs and say crash or come up with another funny word. Remember, dogs are the only animal that can read a human facial expression besides humans. So if you have funny command words, that motivates the dog to want to do that thing. Let me see, what else? We went over the escalating consequences. If you need a refresh for those, let me know. I don't put those on video because it's one of the few secrets you have to actually hire me for. But remember to create scenarios to practice those behaviors. I'm going to, if I forget, remind me, and I will put the door exercise up on the in your write-up in a link so you can watch a video where I worked with a gentleman who actually has Alzheimer's with his dogs, teaching his dogs the knock at the door means to go away from the door. And that'll help with the little Richard door dashing. Anything else you want me to go over?
I think that's it.
All right, the only thing that I get mad about my clients is when they need my help and don't let me know. I have 4,000 clients. I cannot follow up with you multiple times. If you have questions, the number I called you from is my primary cell. Program that in your phone. Share it with anybody else in the family. If you have any questions, text me. I love seeing that. One of them just went and laid down next to yes. So please, I don't care if it's 7 years after I've worked with you. We were talking about giving. I'm a very giving person. I like to give and I want to help you, but I can only do that if you let me know. Texting me will be the fastest way to reach me. I get all these telemarketing calls and emails. I get about 50 a week. So, or 50 a day, excuse me. So I can't get through them. Text message, I'll see it right away. Okay. It'll help if you text me a picture of Brody or Little Richard, whatever. Hey, Little Richard question, when he's doing this, what do I do? I'll get back to you pretty quick. If I don't get you back within a day, text me again. Sometimes it goes to my watch instead of my phone. All right, well, let's pan over there. And that is Brody on the right. And yes, you are awake. And I want to say Gilda again, but it's
Gabby.
Gabby. And then Little Richard, who is actually Baby. Oh, there he is, right there. He snuck up on me. I couldn't see him on the other side of the ottoman. Also, one of the rules, not being allowed in the furniture for at least 90 days, and after that, only with an invitation if the other behaviors are gone. But the book says if you have dogs that bark, no free pets, no furniture, because the higher they sit, the more rank or social status. I would recommend you order those X mats. You'll need probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 of them. They're about $11 a piece. It just makes it easier to police it so you don't have to police it yourself. And then after that, it's with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if you invite Little Richard up, he starts barking, he loses that privilege. One last thing. Practice the out command. Go to your kitchen with one of the dogs, throw the treat out when the dog 3 feet outside the boundary. When he licks up, say the word out, call him back in, do it a second time, then do it on the other side. Do it all over any room that you might want the dog to leave. That way you can actually tell the dog out and the dog knows what it is that you want. All right, well, if you are a volleyball player, you're not very happy, but everybody else seems to be pretty enjoying the session. But I'm David, that's Brody,
Gabby.
Gabby, I was going to say that, and little Richard, aka Baby, and this is their roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.